Good evening, everyone. Hope we are all doing splendid. So tonight, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. You may have noticed, if you're on the dev build, that there are a number of stars which are bright red and behaving very strangely. And that is because we've got the WISE data from Gaia, and these are LT and Y class stars. And the game's not set up to handle those classes of star. So I figured I may as well set it up so it can handle those classes of star. So that means configuring the physical object itself that's displayed in the galaxy and adding procedural versions of the WISE data as well. So this is what I've been working on today. Here we have a single actor which handles both LT and Y class stars. And it does that by way of the Kelvin value. Hang on, I got a cat on my lap. Come on, Pip, down you go. Yeah, so if we set the Kelvin value to 0, it is completely black. Ignore the fact it's casting light. That's something I need to do on the stream. So as we go up through the Kelvin temperature range, you'll see that the star/gas giant starts to generate temperature and starts to glow more and more. And then as we go up, it gets hotter and hotter, and do some big jumps, it gets hotter, hotter, and hotter. That's kind of the upper limit of an L-class star. Way too many tabs open here. Yeah, so all the other star classes do have their own separate actor, which is what this one is here. So we've got just a standard static mesh version of a star, and then we've got this LTY version of the star. And the reason they're different is because they have a completely different texture. So the material that controls the star surface, this is using the gas giant material rather than the star material, because LTY class stars are much closer to gas giants than they are stars, so it just makes sense to use the other material structure for them. So the texture itself, if I grab a hold of it a sec. Too much going on. Right, so this is the basic texture of the gas giants, and there's various different parameters you can control. Obviously that's just my test version, which is why it looks all funky. But if we too many tabs. So essentially what it does is it takes a color range for the upper level clouds and a color range for the lower level clouds, and it just basically runs that through loads of different noise functions. So what you end up with is lots and lots of different layers of noise, which form what is a facsimile of a gas giant surface. And I've just been messing around with applying overlay colors to that. It's not too bad. I mean, I've been refining and cutting this down over time, and we're down to only 261 instructions on the vertex shader now, which is quite good. Base pass is still pretty big though, so that needs to be cut down as well. Although on that note, because this one is not a typical gas giant, we can make it unlit. That just limits what you can do with it, but this particular one is only ever going to use the emissive channel, so it can just be using the unlit shading model. Fully rough. It's probably about as lightweight as I can make it without getting rid of a bunch of math. But yeah, that's essentially how the gas giants, the stars, and all the planets work. It's just noise layers which are coloured and combined to make a facsimile of a surface. So what I was doing before going on stream, I was trying to just grab the best colour region or luminosity values rather, and also the right size for this object as well. So right now that's the same size as Sol, so it's just a G-class star. We need something which is about 0.1 for an L-class, because that's essentially the lower end of the M-class stars, so you can see it's quite a bit smaller. And then we need to decide on just how much light this object is emitting. I was using the actual difference in luminosity between different star classes, but with the way the lighting works in Unreal, you'd have to have a direction light with a light value of something like 30 to 40,000 lumens, which is madness, and the engine doesn't like that, so I'm having to kind of gamify the lighting amount. I've been doing this on 2 monitors, so bear with me while I shuffle tabs around. Don't need that either. Do I need that? No. Don't need that. Don't need that. Do need that. Don't need that. So normally when we're doing atmospheres around planets, the number of samples that we're doing on the volume texture, the more samples you give it, the smoother it shades the direction of the starlight. But with a star, you don't need to do any of that, so it can do 0 samples. So we've got a separate actor for the atmosphere around these particular stars. You can't really see, but there is one. And if I do that, you can see there the atmosphere is scaling wrongly, so that's something that needs to be fixed. Thank you, Canadian, is that back in? And Lars of the North. Yes, we are working hard to bring this out as soon as we can. Yeah, we're reasonably close to multi-star systems. The main hold-up for that really is just the repositioning of the stars within the system, because rather than having a system centered on a central star, you have to center it on the barycenter instead, and then position those stars outside of the barycenter, and also then make objects orbit around those stars. And then you have the complication of, if it's a trinary system, then you've got either 2 stars orbiting one another around a central star, or you've got a binary pair where you've got a single star and a binary pair orbiting in a binary relationship. There's a lot of complexity once you add additional stars. But at least on the UI side of things, we should have that covered. Right, so I've been copy pasting a lot of stuff between the original star actor and the new one. And I've also been cleaning a bunch of stuff up while I'm at it. Like that. Now, it doesn't need to be there. Eating nodes, my favourite thing to do. So where was I doing the atmosphere? That's the question. Oh, of course, these ones don't have an atmosphere, that's why. Yeah, that's right. The various combinations you can have once you add multiple stars is just crazy. So we just need to make sure we go through all of them and cover every eventuality. I was watching a good video on this on the back of the TV series 3-Body System, because that got me kind of fascinated about 3-body systems. And it would seem that in nature, no true 3-body systems tend to exist. It's usually you'll have however many bodies there are condensed down into binaries, and then those binaries might be orbiting each other, but essentially it's just lots of different binaries within a system. So if you have 3 stars, it wouldn't be a true 3-body system. It would be a single star and 2 binaries. Or a single star and 2 in a binary relationship. Hi Leosh, welcome back. Hope you had a good vacation. If I press that, that fixes the atmosphere size. Why can't we see it? Okay, weird things are happening with the atmosphere. Just about see the atmosphere there. Don't want to do is have the atmosphere cover the surface too much because it messes with the colour. So this is probably a brightness issue. stick there. Stops it from shrinking every time we change something. Ah, yes, Lars, I think you found Steve there. Steve loves to jump scare people. So, how bright does this thing need to be? Not that bright, clearly. Oh, I can see what's happening. But I haven't put that in there. There's always something silly. It's not helping. So what I'm trying to do here is get the border of the atmosphere quite thick, without messing with the interior of it too much. Hi God of Bears, I am currently adding L, T and Y class stars to the game, and specifically I'm just trying to get a nice glow around them. The values that I've been using here are just too low. Though we're definitely getting some weirdness happening with this, because that should not be there like that. I wonder whether or not it's because the size of the planet is not matching the size of the mesh. Hi, Mr. Byrne. Plan for this evening is to add LT and Y class stars to the game. Right, let's take a look at the gas giants a minute. Right, so default is 6378. So if we use the same default there, same default there, same default there, move that out of the way. Right, okay, so that gives us correctly rendering atmosphere. So if I make that bigger, does it break the atmosphere? No. Alright, good start. So that's fine. We don't want the atmosphere to be too bright at that scale. Well, that's weird. Why is it scaling it backwards? Right, so the atmosphere on this one should get bigger and bigger. Okay. So 100, 500, 1,000. Atmosphere is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this one, 500, 1,000. It's actually getting smaller. What weirdness is going on there? difference being is that I made some changes to the material. So let's see whether or not that is the issue here. Nope, that's actually not going to work because it's now casting to the wrong class. I may have to come back to that little problem. Wonder if this is a base radius issue. I don't think that's getting set anywhere else. Let me just double check. So that's doing that, that's doing that. That fires this one, that should change the atmosphere. Nope, that's all good. Okay, so that's fine. So this is the only place it's actually doing it. Weird. Well, as I said, I shall come back to that problem. So what I want to do is I need to define some boundaries essentially for the generation of these stars. So let's move that out of the way. You can see on here I've added the temperature regions. So from 0 to 499 Kelvin is Y class, 500 to 1299 is T class, and then 1300 to 1289 is L class, and that is the lower end of the M class band. So this is for the real world stars. So all of those Y's catalog stars are now being properly classed depending on their Kelvin value. And then the next thing to do is we need to define actual sizes of those stars. So relative to the radius of Sol. So we know that the lower end of an M class is about 0.1. So we'll start off with that value, and then we'll go down to maybe 0.05. What is Jupiter's radius? Okay, so Jupiter has a radius of 70,000 kilometers. So what's that? 0.01 of the Sun? Okay, so Jupiter is about 1/10 of the Sun, so okay, so that should be our lower limit then, because obviously we don't want anything smaller than that, so set that as our lower limit. I use these as temporary values for now. It's, I'm going to have to go and look at some actual academics to see what the actual value should be. Right, so this one basically should cap out at the same size as Jupiter. Let's go for the 2. Point 2 to 0.3. You can be 3 to 4. That's 0.6 down to 0.4. And the difficult one is the luminosity, and that's one where the real world values don't really match what we can do in Unreal, so that's what I'm doing manually. Make that a variable a sec. So where's our luminosity? Much easier with 2 monitors. Let's make that instance editable a sec, and then we need to use that value to define the light output. Which is going to be in here. So the luminosity, the base luminosity of the star will change depending on how far away the star is. Okay. So if that's our Y-class star, then the luminosity needs to be essentially 0. Essentially, we want barely any lighting on it at all. Should be about our upper limit there, I reckon. So So for the Y class, that is going to be our upper limit, and the lower limit would be, of course, 0. And then that becomes our lower limit. And then we need to work out what the upper limit is. So that would be that. And then we just move that out of the way. Yes, thank you, Cybren. As Claire just said, it's all being ploughed into resource for the game. So we're currently actively advertising for more staff members. We're looking for a sci-fi concept artist. So we're looking for someone who is sort of really experienced at doing starships, sci-fi weaponry, sci-fi vehicles, sci-fi environments, that kind of thing. And we want someone who's got a really established portfolio and experience working in the industry. We're also looking for a shader artist with experience with volumetrics, because there's a lot of volumetric effects we want to build in the game. We're looking for a couple of Unreal generalists, and we're looking for someone specifically to work on the character system. So we've got quite a wide array of new talent that we need to take on board, and it's just about finding the right people. But yeah, aside from that, as Claire says, I'm building a dev shed in the garden, so I'm no longer working out of the corner of my bedroom, which would be nice. And Claire doesn't have to be woken up by the sound of me eating crisps at night. Just get rid of that atmosphere a minute. Something I've had to do with this is to start injecting a little bit of blue into the colours, because the T-class stars in particular have put a lot of ultraviolet. So I'm just trying to kind of purple them up a little bit, but that's not actually transferring into the light itself. So what I might do, do I do that? Hang on, let's have a look. Yeah, because when we set up the light, rather than setting the temperature directly, what we could do is set the colour instead. issue is these are not sRGB, so it might be a little bit different. Yeah, it's coming out a lot bluer. So I can tone that down a bit. Yeah, I shall definitely do a shed tour. We haven't even got the concrete base put down for it yet, but when that happens, I shall definitely do a tour. We'll do a progress log on the build as well. Simon Coy, you're welcome. I'm glad you're getting into it. I started using Unreal about almost 7 years ago now, and I haven't stopped since. It's very addictive. I'm going to be slightly more sophisticated about this actually. So if the temperature is over that, then we just want to set the temperature as such. If it's not, then we want to set the light color instead. And to do that, we will do that directly. This is all a bit messy right now, but I will tidy it up once it's running smooth. Right, so if we go to 1300, it removes that blue. Go back down, it adds the blue again. So we just want to tone down the amount of blue. That's a bit more like it. So if that is going to be how bright they are, we could probably do is just bumping that up a little bit. Not there though. I think that looks about right. Right, so if that's the colour right up in front of the star, then at 0.1 AU, it's essentially nothing, because it's such a dim star anyway. It's not going to light anything that far away. So these stars are really not going to cast much light at all. Probably get away with bumping that up a little bit. So that gives us our upper level banding for that one, which means that's our lower level banding for this one. So the jump from that to that is huge. So it's 0.64. So if that were to be virtually an M class star, the value of 0.64. Yeah, that's way too bright. How does that look at 1 AU? That's not too bad. I think the habitable zone on these stars is going to be practically 0. Okay, so if we go with too many tabs, move you out the way, move you out the way. So I might need to reassess the lower end of these M-class systems because that's a little bit crazy. So yeah, let's just go for 0.1 there. Right, so it should be generating the right size with the right luminosity and the right class. And again, this is just the WISE data set at the moment. So the next thing that needs to happen with our location type, and that will be set as LT or Y class stars, as per here. So that's when it eventually gets around to generating the actual system itself. That's where we're setting our star class. So we need to tidy this up and condense it all down into collapsed nodes. And then we need to add LT and Y at the end here. And then we can calculate all the various temperature regions accordingly. So another thing that's going to happen when this behemoth has been cleaned up a little bit, I'll be rolling in the new life calculations to planetary surfaces. So this is all the various bits of code that handles generating planets. That all needs to be neatened up a little bit, and then we can start generating life. It's kind of like the final step in the process. Something I did on the Galaxy Gen, which I'm really quite fond of, is I went through and separated it out into stepped processes. So as you go down through the processing steps, it's building up the galaxy sectors in layers, so one layer of data at a time. And I love how step by step and easy to follow that is. So I'm going to do the same with this. So this is going to be really step by step and building the star system in layers. And that should make the whole thing far more robust and less prone to bugs. Elkas. NZT. And the pretend gas giants. So actually something else I need to cater for at some point is having black holes be the center of a star system, because right now it doesn't really make much sense and it's a bit weird. And then just adding rogue planets. But the good thing is now that we've specifically got Y-class stars, we can piggyback rogue planets off of that easily. So I'll just duplicate that class, get rid of all the light source and star aspect of it, and just create rogue gas giants. Does the ship have honk? It will have a honk. It'll be a unique proprietary honk, but it will be a honk of some description. Although it's more of a layered honk, because rather than just rocking up to a star system and doing an overall honk, it will be different layers of detail revealed the closer you get to things. That's all good. Everyone loves the honk. It was actually the first question I asked Jose. So our audio guy, Jose, is an ex-Frontier dev, and he used to be their audio lead. And the first thing I asked him was, right, so can you confirm who was it that made the honk? Was it you? And sadly, it wasn't him. And he can't remember who it was. I'm of course assuming you're talking about the Elite Dangerous honk. If you're not, then what I'm saying makes no sense whatsoever to you. Yeah, we're big fans of Elite. I've been playing Elite in one form or another since the 80s. Granted, I was only 5 years old, but still, it counts. Yes, I know the feeling well. Right, so let's step by step this. Why are we sorting out the inclination there? It seems an odd place to do it. Where is that actually used? We can do that fairly late in the process, so I'll park that there for now. So, step 1. Generate additional star details. So essentially what we're doing here, look at the O-class star as an example. So we know the Kelvin value, and being a main sequence star, the mass of the star is fairly linear based on its temperature, so we can use a lookup table essentially to define the mass. And now that we know what our mass is as a percentage of Sol, we have a value for our mass, and then what we do is we add a little bit more mass, and that's our system mass in total. So that basically gives us our mass pool for building planets and things. Star age needs to be a little bit more involved than that. Okay, yeah, and that's just working out the stellar density, that's all fine. Not quite sure why we're not removing the mass of the star from the system mass. I'll loop back to that. It's probably going to have to change. Yes, protoplanetary disks will definitely be a thing. The way we're building the galaxy is we're just expanding it step by step. So we've got the basic structure of the galaxy done, and now it's just a case of adding extra layers of detail, like adding LT and Y class stars. That's 3 whole new star classes, which will be galaxy-wide. And then we'll add something else, and that will be galaxy-wide. And we'll just keep adding layers and layers of detail until it's as fully fleshed out as it possibly could be. So things like wormholes will be coming soon. Protoplanetary disks, technically, we could add them now, because where I've got the volumetric black holes, I've also got the code for just accretion disks as well. But I had to do a lot of sort of jiggery pokery with the black holes code to make it work properly and play well with everything else in the game. And I have to do that same jiggery pokery with the accretion disks. So once that's done, then we can have volumetric accretion disks for systems as well. Now, the scanning in this is generally speaking going to be push a button and something happens. You won't need to, for example, fire probes manually around a planet to scan it. The sensor array on the ship will do the work for you. Ultimately, we want the thing you find to be the content, not the finding of the thing, if that makes sense. Do I want these to be local variables? I suppose I do. This is another process which is going to be difficult when we have multiple stars. Because right now we're simply calculating the equilibrium temperature at various different distances away from the star, crazily enough in centimeters. Which is fine if you have a single star, because you can take the radius of the star, its temperature, and then work out the temperature regions, because you can work out what the equilibrium temperature would be with the black body radiation at any set distance. But if you've got multiple stars, then how does that affect the math? It's going to get a little bit crazy. We might have to maybe combine the values. Maybe only calculate the values for each star individually, and not them together. I'm just thinking if it's a binary pair, then really they should be together. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but that's just another example of how going from one to many stars adds huge amounts of extra complication. Right, our first two steps of the process. If we sort out the L and the Y class star details. So again, the mass values are going to be different. Those values so high. You know, I think all this time, M-class stars have been calculating the wrong temperature regions. Because that's definitely not correct. So it should be 190. I forget the rest. Prepared earlier. So 3889. I wonder if I was supposed to have put a 3 there. I bet it was that was a typo. So these values here, they're based on a new scale that I put together, which I've been running examples against real-world stars to make sure they fall within the right categories, and they do, so that's good. But yeah, I better go and check the rest of these, because that one was definitely wrong. So K class is 3890 to 5304. Oh, you know what I did? I copied the G class one for M class. That's weird. So 5309. No, 5305. all those fixed. I'm surprised we didn't have any weird M-class systems with those values being the way they were. It means it would have always chosen the lower value. So it means that every M-class system would have picked that value. They all would have had the same mass budget. A random stream it's a stream of numbers which are kind of pseudo-random, and every time you access the random stream, it increments the list by 1. So your starting seed is whereabouts on the list of numbers you start from, and that's your seed value. And then every time you hit that variable, it's incrementing that by 1 each time. And you have to be quite careful because, like here, I'm hitting the random stream 4 times. So that's incrementing the stream 4 times. If I add another random stream step here, then all 4 of these are now one place out of where they were previously, which means you've completely changed the generation. For that reason, every class of star has its own separate random stream, so that we can't mess up one star class by doing something in another. You have to be very careful with random streams, because it would be very easy to completely rewrite the face of the galaxy just by changing a single value. I've put in a lot of layers of protection to stop that from happening. Case in point, we are adding LT and Y class stars to the galaxy, and adding these 3 star classes won't change the galaxy in any way. There will simply be more stars that weren't there before, but none of the existing stars will change in any way whatsoever. Yeah, essentially. Something else I need to do is work out the populations of T-class stars. I mean, if M-class are about 76% of the galaxy, then you would assume that these are probably going to be even more numerous than that. Difficult to see because they're so dim. But I imagine there's probably more of them than there are M-class even. So this value here, this is how much mass exists in the Sol system's circumstellar disk above and beyond the mass of the star, which is a crazy, crazy small percentage, which I didn't realise. So you take literally the whole mass of our solar system, and it's only that much more than the star itself. Hi BC5, all going well, thank you. What I'm doing right now is I'm adding awareness of LT and Y classes to the system generation code. So before, it was getting to these points and obviously there was nothing there, nothing hooked up. So it wasn't generating any of the data required to generate star systems. Things like age and mass and that sort of thing. I'm going to leave the mass values the same as M class for now, until I find out what those mass values should be. And I just want to double check that these aren't messed up. That seems fine. Let's give it some arbitrary values. So if 0.078 is essentially the lower end of an M class, then if we go for 0.05, and then on these ones, I'll go 0.05, and then maybe 0.03. So I'm literally making these numbers up off the top of my head. But they should be ballpark. Roughly the right kind of values. It's basically taking the known value for an M class and just taking a couple of decimals off of it. So the percentage chance for LT and Y is up for debate. I am going to have to look at the literature on the subject, and as far as I'm aware, so if we base this on the fact that there are probably more rogue planets in the galaxy than there are stars by some margin, because rogue planets are everywhere, and most of those are probably failed stars, then by that logic, you would think that LT and Y class stars, which are almost failed stars, would be more numerous than M class, which successfully formed as stars. So technically, there's probably going to have to be a lot of LT and Y class stars out there. But I'll start off small, and then we'll refine the numbers, as and when we get the science for that. Because there's another big job, actually, that this relates to. Now, I'm not going to do this for the current patch, because it's going to be quite a lot of work. But what I need to do is I need to separate out the different star classes into different sectors. So right now we have a combined sector. So we have our 100 light year cube, and that is a single sector where all star classes get generated. What I need to do again instead is treat it more like a chunk, so that we'll have, say, 1,000 light year cube for O and B class stars. So when we do our 3x3x3 grid of 27 sectors, 27 chunks, that's like 1,500 light years worth of visibility for O and B class stars. Now the complication with that is they're no longer within the 100 light year cube, which makes some other aspects difficult to maneuver, but we can deal with that. But the positive side of doing this is where it comes to like 76% of the galaxy being M class stars, we can make the M class chunk size really, really small. So we're not having to generate hundreds of thousands of M class stars, 1,500 light years away. We're only generating them, say, 25 light years away, and we're still capturing the essence of the galaxy, because you've got things like all of the known constellations rendered using the biggest, brightest stars, which is why we can see them. And that allows us to increase the view distance in the galaxy considerably without overloading the data processing side of things. So when it comes to things like LT and Y class, we can have a significant number of them if we're only generating them in really, really small chunk sizes. So that's something I will address in the next update, not the one we're working on now. Because if I start that work now, Claire will probably disown me. Age is another thing we need to look at for these stars as well. I know that M class essentially just exists forever. Not sure whether LT and Y are the same. There's going to be a lot of refinement needed on each of these, and I'll go through them at a class at a time, just making sure that the right ages are correct for the right regions of the galaxy. Okay, so armed with that information, we can now define our temperature regions. And they're going to be tiny. Hopefully, that should be enough info to actually generate those systems. The last thing we need to do is we need to tell it which class it's actually using. So don't have LT and Y on this enum, so we need to add those. This is essentially what defines what actually gets spawned in the sky. So where we've got the static mesh version of a star as distinct from a volumetric version of a star, which is something I was working on, we need LTY versions of the LTY class, which means that enum needs updating. Which means I may have to just restart the engine so that we don't have corrupted blueprints. Because that's a bug that Epic still haven't fixed, like 100 years later. So, Galaxy Systems. So we've got star static mesh, star LTY. Large object types. Okay, so large object types. That's where we need our other ones. So L class star. and Y class star. Stick them up there. Obviously, at some point, we're also going to add things like white dwarfs, neutron stars, T Tauri. All that needs to go on this list as well. Right, so now that I've saved those, I'm not going to do anything else but simply close the engine. I'm not going to save any of this lot. Because there's a bug where, and I know this specifically relates to structs, but I think it might affect enums as well, where if you save a blueprint after having edited the struct, then the reference to that struct in that blueprint becomes invalid, and then the only way to restore that reference is to recompile the blueprint and save it. But of course, if you've got like 15, 20 blueprints that all reference this struct, then it means you've got to find them all and compile and save them all. Whereas if you just quit the engine and reload it, then it sidesteps that problem. If you mean Epic's involvement in the bug, it has been reported and it does exist as a bug reference, but it has gone unfixed for a long time. I think it's fairly low priority. Yes, Epic own and manage Unreal Engine. It's the engine they use for Fortnite. But in recent years, they've started gearing it more towards video production and in the film industry. But they're always sort of pushing the bleeding edge of graphics, which is well, one of the reasons I went with it, to be honest. It's fairly straightforward to make things look pretty. Right, so L, T, and Y. We're now using that class. That's very true. Yeah, blueprints get a lot of stick for the inefficiency and general lack of real-time performance, which is all very true. Blueprints are not very good when it comes to real-time code. But for basic systems, general gameplay systems, things that doesn't need to be happening in real time or something that doesn't involve a lot of math, then they're a great way of coding. It's quick, it's easy to see your workflow, You know, and oftentimes it's much easier to copy paste stuff as well. I don't think Epic have anything to do with Tencent, do they? Do they? Blueprints are a wrapper for the underlying C++ code. So C++ functions are exposed as blueprint nodes. Well, what you used to be able to do is you could nativize the blueprints into C++, so it would actually, when you compile the game, it would recompile the blueprints as raw C++, which was almost as fast as native C++, but not quite. And some things broke when you did that. But generally speaking, as far as I'm aware, it's kind of an emulator. I think it works like an emulator. So when it's running the blueprint code like in a packaged game, I'm pretty sure there's like an emulation layer running, which is why it's slower, because you've got that translation from the blueprint down to the C++. That's how I understand it anyway. And it's the emulation layer that makes it slow. Good evening, Garzini. Welcome to the stream. Hi, Zephyr. Sorry I missed you. Yeah, so right now we're adding LT and Y class stars to the game and cleaning up some of the system generation code while we're at it. Essentially, I'm converting this into a nice, simple, stepped approach, the same as the galactic sectors. Because there's a few bits and pieces, like this bit of code here, probably be better happening on each star class. I've done the fall off on the MIDI on the piano so that you can hear it practically as far as the bathroom entrance, but if you're outside in the corridor then you can't hear it. So it's pretty much the entirety of the lounge, but not beyond. I'm not sure what we'll be doing yet in terms of the internal ship's comms, so I'll have to wait and see on that one. So this makes no sense here. So let's add that to here instead. The pool table is going to be, well, I'll stick some balls on it so at least there are balls and physics and you can knock them around. But in terms of being like fully playable as an actual game, probably for a while yet, because it's obviously a low priority thing. Got lots of other things I need to finish first. But it definitely is something I want to do. I want to be able to walk up to the pool table and have a virtual queue and actually knock the balls around, play a game. And then we'll have a button on there somewhere for just resetting the table. I'm a big pool fan, and I used to play a league back in my youth, a pub league. So it's yeah, something I'd be keen to get in there. So I don't see any reason why this system mass can't be actually properly refined at this point. So that just really needs to deduct surely. So we take the mass of the star, times it by Sol's mass. We then add a tiny percentage for the star system. Gives us our total. We then deduct that amount from that. And what's left over is our circumstellar disk mass. Blah, 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 yeah. That should be all we need to do. All of them. So that minus that goes in there. Yeah, when we do ship-wide announcements, we're definitely using typical naval tradition for that. So there'll be the usual alert klaxons and bosun's whistles and that sort of thing. Now, essentially, we want it to feel as real as possible. By the end of today's stream, hopefully we will have LT and Y class stars properly in the game and properly generating everything they need to generate. To make sure I remember to do the Roche limits as well, so that we're not having planets generating awkwardly close to things. Right, so we're dealing with the mass pool there, so generate additional star details plus system mass pool. Right, and then this just constructs all the data for the first object, which is of course the star. Again, this is going to get annoyingly confusing once we add multi-stars. Just collapse this down. Construct central star. Top. The beauty of splitting this up into stepped approaches is that you can really get your head around what you're doing and why you're doing it. So like, depending on what star class we have, we generate any missing data for the star, we generate that, we define our mass pool, then we get an idea of where our temperature regions are, then we add the data for the first star, and then we can add the planets. Should be a reasonably decent order to do things in. So I guess these steps are like the core system steps, and then the rest of it is just adding data. Means we can spread all this out a little bit. So right now, one of the things we're doing is we are defining a seed for each object from the random stream that defines the sector. the system. So the sector defines the system seed, and then the system seed defines each individual object seed. So that's anything from 0 to 2 billion, which means you can have 2 billion versions of this object in various ways. However, we have a much better seed system now, which is, I think it was 10 to the power 256 or 2 to the power 256 seeds. It's a ridiculously high number. Enough that we can now have a unique seed per every square kilometre, so every cubic kilometre of a star system, which is a 1 light year cube, with only a 3% chance of collision. And that is assuming that every single square kilometre was occupied by an object, which is mental. So we can get rid of a bunch of that. I wish there was a better way of doing this, because the more we have in this enum, then the more there's going to be in this list. These are going to get annoyingly large. I suppose I could convert it to a byte, but then you have to kind of know which byte relates to what. Just going to set anything that doesn't have anything yet, just to asteroid, just so we don't get any weirdness going on. But yeah, so this seed won't be needed, because we'll take the actual coordinates of the object, and that will become its seed. Blah 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 blah. This is the description that comes up when you scan. Right, so these are the actor types. Just make sure we've got the right ones in there. Yeah, so we could do, yeah. So essentially it would look the same if we did that. So when we make the index, it would come up like this. So you run into the same problem where you've got giant nodes everywhere. Okay. There. So that's already generating the right text. Right, so that's basically doing everything it needs to do. So if let's just go and pop pop that in there a minute, just so we're not missing it. Now we should be in a position now where these LT and Y class stars should actually start generating properly in the game. The only thing we're missing is the actual space object generator. So let's just grab that. Which we need to be on a different level for. If we can find it. Yeah, I've got a couple of different sort of API building tools, and we're ultimately happy to expose any data that needs to be exposed. So if anyone's building any kind of external data managing tool, then if there's something that's needed, then we'll make every effort to have the game explore that. I just realised my camera speed is mental. The ship could literally be anywhere. Zoom in on that flower. Right, so we should have that. So this is what generates the actual objects you see in space. So we need to add a new function for that. I guess what we'll do is we'll duplicate the one we do for the star. Work from that one. It's weird when you make two of them. Right, so the actor is that. We send config details. That's our star. That should be defaults. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see whether this actually worked. Let's just find ourselves one of our M classes. So it's actually generated planets around this one, which it wasn't doing before. So that's a good sign. Yeah, well, we're planning to use our website for that. There's a lot of things I want to roll into the website, sort of as an extension of the game. And things like log entries, in some places maybe ship-to-ship comms could be routed through the website. Obviously, with it being a session-based, peer-to-peer game, we don't have a central server that everyone's connected to. So an external website is the only way to connect players together or connect games together. Not in real time, obviously, but if players have a profile on the website, then log entries can be attached to that profile. Yeah, because we need the website anyway, for things like granting rewards to backers, things like the uniform patches and in-game objects. We need a way to authenticate that. So having our website being the central authority for those things makes the whole thing a lot easier. So you just put your username and password in the game client, and that's that. It just pulls everything off the website that needs to be there. Hey Jim, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so obviously security is going to be a big concern using a website as a central data resource. But in many ways it's no different to BattleNet or anything like that. There are lots of examples of where there's a central forum associated with a game, and as long as that's on some pretty robust hardware, not hosted by us. Yeah, so in an ideal world, they would be Steam items, but we're not always going to be on Steam, so at some point we'll be on the Epic Store as well. If not elsewhere, and we need a way of players being able to sort of cross-platform their rewards. Plus, the problem with Steam is that they don't give you very many keys, and we have more backers than they'll give out keys for, so we can't just create DLC items and use that as a solution. Yeah, but to give items out to players who already have those items, so say backers for example, so we got 6,000 odd backers and they all need a backer patch, then you can't put that as an item on the Steam store and then expect Steam to give you 6,000 keys for those items. Wow, this is a tiny, tiny system. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a fact. Steam won't give you that many keys. That's why we have to have a separate product for the dev build. believe that planet is in the habitable zone of what is essentially a nothing star system. It's so tiny. Yes, they are. So when we essentially extended the range between the decks, the staircases need to be extended still to meet the new deck height. So it's generating the star as a planet, hilariously. The radius seems about right though. So it should be glowing. At least a little bit. Right, so I definitely got the right class there. Definitely got the right classes in there. And there. Yeah, the ship's definitely going to have floodlights, especially when it comes to things like asteroids and stuff. If you're miles out, like beyond the limits of the star system, and you find something, you're definitely going to need some lights. It definitely generated a sphere of some kind. So I'm going to hazard a guess that it generated a sphere with a temperature of 0, which is why it was so dark. So the Kelvin value should be good. Yep. And then we get the data from here, and we go up here, we check the data there. So unless that has a really, really low temperature, that should be visible. Let's just capture the temperature a minute. Yeah, there was definitely something there. I saw something big and black obscuring the stars. The question is, what was it? Right, so this is saying 437 Kelvin. It's definitely getting all of the right details. to add some decimals to these, so we're seeing some decent values, or even kilometers, given how small the star is. Right, so we know that that has a Kelvin value of 437, which means that puts it here, and it's almost at the upper end of that, so it's definitely going to have some light. Yeah, if you want some warm hot dogs, it's about enough. It should have some ever so faint glow, not none at all. So some of this needs to be duplicated on here. Okay, so all these values should be good. Should be fine. That bit was working right, though. I'm convinced it was the right colour. Yeah, the home key's fixed now. The latest dev build should be resolved. Commander Delta, yeah, so essentially what you're seeing when you approach a star system is the star illuminating the planets. Like if you look up in the night sky now, you'll be able to see planets illuminated as they look like stars. In fact, like Venus and Jupiter are brighter in the sky than most stars. So that's actually true to life. And what it's not doing is it's not changing the colour based on the star spectrum, so that's something that needs to be improved. Why are we setting colour there? quite possibly a redundant thing, but leave it there for now, but replace it on this one. So we shall set it for that instead. Just so we're sure we're getting the right value. I think what the issue is here is we are actually not generating the right material. Though it should be doing that on here anyway. Yeah, it really depends on the distance, because even if you're ever so slightly a few degrees offset the side of the planet, you're still going to get the starlight illuminating one side of the planet. So in order to see nothing at all, you would have to be perfectly lined up between the planet and the star. Good morning, Firstus. Sounds like you had a fun night. This will probably generate a bunch of errors. Yep. As expected. that's definitely not needed. And can go. I don't need that either. That can also go. So that needs the seed. Although, if that's a just go on there, that doesn't need to be passed through. You can go from there, you're not needed there, and you're not needed there. Yeah, I don't see why not. Let me just go and have a quick look at Earth a minute. Okay, yeah, so obviously that's not the solar system. If you press home, it should now take you correctly to the correct coordinates for the solar system. Oops. Do that. The reason we're starting 1.4 light years away is because with the latest data pull from Gaia, it's placed Sol at these coordinates, and before it was ending in 70 and then 56, which was 1.4 light years from here. But when it spawns the game, it's still using the old coordinates, so that's quite a simple fix. But I will just make sure that Earth is actually there. The local coordinates are obviously wrong. Let me turn off the autopilot a minute. is what's pretending to be Earth. So yeah, Earth is definitely still there. It's just not where you expect it to be. So basically, these coordinates here need to be entered into the home button. Yes, she spoke the truth. Make sure that it's generating the right data inside the system, which it is. Okay, but not there. Right, I imagine this is the same problem where it's generating a star system procedurally because it's not recognizing that the coordinates are Sol. So it's kind of skipping the custom system. Here's Earth. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that these coordinates are entered into the home button. Hang on, let me come out of that a minute. So if we take a screenshot of that, so when you press the home button, these are the coordinates it's using. So it's just that these numbers here are wrong. So let's type these in manually. So 46171604. And then we have 647493887. And then 12792658. Right, so that should be correct. At the same time, if we go into game state, because this is what loads the game, here's what I prepared earlier. So if we're in a single player new game or multiplayer new game or tutorial, this is where it's going to put the ship. And as you can see, we are 1 light year off on both of those coordinates. Hopefully that won't change again on the next guy I pull. Pop these in. I'll have to find a pleasing rotation so that the sun's in the right place. Right, so we now should start the game next to Earth. Anasi, I would say this is probably the 3rd time that Earth has moved, and that's purely because when we're running the script on the Gaia data, it's coming back with a different value. because we have to tweak the script to get the correct stellar locations for obviously all the stars in the data set. And when the script is tweaked to do that, it moves Earth. So as we're refining the script, Earth is kind of jiggling around until it kind of hones in on the perfect location. There it is. So I don't have any rotation data I can copy paste. So what I'm going to have to do is find the star. Where is it? There it is. Oh, look, see where I've placed us. Earth is behind us. That's no good. So what I'll need to do is move the ship over on the other side of Earth and kind of park it with the sun shining through the window, and then take another snapshot of those coordinates, and that will give us our nice new starting location. But I won't do that yet because it's probably going to move again. So for now, at least we are starting at Earth. So if let's move us over a little bit. So minus, go to 66, 70, which was the original place, 0 and 55. Right. And then we cheat our way over. If we now press the home button on the keyboard, it should take us right back where we just were. There are a whole long list of things like that need tweaking before the demo build goes out. Like the target indicator on here, the orange circle's missing. So there's lots of tiny little annoyances like that. I just need to spend a few days just going through all of them and just polishing it all. Right, so this should park us directly next to Earth. Okay, why is the sun glitching? That's weird. Oh, I know why it's glitching. So we're definitely going to Earth correctly. Yeah, well, the biggest major feature is the planetary scanning and life on planetary surfaces. That's a big deal, because that's the beginning of life across the whole galaxy, which I will be able to get to once all these other minor issues are sorted. Can't find the sun. Where is it? Right, so Earth is lit up there, which means the sun must be down here. There it is. Right, I just noticed that the sun was glitching about. And I think I know exactly why. I just want to move the ship relatively quickly to confirm. Right, so what's happening there is on the star, that one, what it was doing is it was rerunning this looping function every time the ship moves. And this is essentially just making sure that the star is facing Earth and the light's pointing in the right direction and everything. However, I removed that code. So what I need to do is just change this. So if we do 1 divided by 30. So that should completely resolve that problem. Earth still there. There we go. Normality has resumed. That little dot is Mercury. Oh, yeah, talk about a look of shame. I think that was Mercury, we just rapidly flew past. Oh, I've lost it. Oh no, is that it over there? The in-system labels seems to have stopped working as well. And I think that's probably just a scale issue. Again, that's one other thing that needs fixing in the list of things that need fixing. What's Mercury? Right, actually, while we're here, let's get rid of that. So, if we cheat our way over to that, let's go to that planet. How long until it's going to be released? Well, technically, it's already released because we've got a demo live on Steam right now. And that demo will be updated periodically as and when we polish new features. Really, early access for us is just a line in the sand where we hope for all the major features to be in the game, at least in a basic way. And we're hoping that it's going to be kind of midway towards the end of 2025 for early access. But that's probably a bit optimistic. We'll just have to see. It really depends on just how well we get on with our recruitment, because having more people on board can make a huge difference to to the team and how fast things get done. Yep, we seem to have a glowing ball. Let's start. Same jittery sunlight, which I need to fix here. Thank you. We're certainly working very hard to make it so. Seeing what I think I'm seeing. That's actually creepy. Right, so the actual star mesh didn't generate, but the lighting did. As did the little placeholder ball in the middle. And these two planets lurking in the darkness of this system. Ooh, where did they go? That's actually an interesting effect, because the light gets dimmer the further up you are from the sun or the star. If you fly towards a planet which you can see from the star, the light gets dimmer as you approach. Okay, there were definitely two planets there lurking in the darkness. Where are you, you creepy orbs? Look, there they are. Huh. That's really weird. It's kind of an unavoidable effect, that, because the way Unreal works, we can't have the light actually fading out over that distance, because we'd need to have a light source with an attenuation radius the size of a solar system, which I do not believe is possible. So where you're having to use a direction light and then fade that out over distance, which means that this effect is always going to happen. But it should be impossible for those planets to be there anyway, so once we fix the Roche limits, they won't generate. What inspired me to create Starship Simulator? Wow. I've been designing this game since I was a teenager, and that was like 30 years ago, which is a long time to be sitting on an idea. But I used to sit in class at school, kind of designing game systems, based on my love of Elite at the time. So I used to play the original Elite to death, and then Frontier First Encounters on the Amiga. Used to play that all the time as well, and it kind of really got me thinking about, if I was to make a space game, what would I want from it? And as I've gotten older and as I've become more interested in actual space science and engineering, and loving what SpaceX are doing, and following every step of the way, literally watching live streams of water tanks being built, all that culminated to wanting to build a starship for real, using real engineering principles, and essentially approaching it as if it was a real physical thing. So my love of watching SpaceX build a starship is kind of where some of that came from. And then my just general love of sci-fi. A huge Babylon 5 fan. I love Stargate, Star Trek, Star Wars, anything with star in it, pretty much. And yeah, so it's I would love to go and explore the galaxy and see what's really out there. Obviously we can't, we don't have the technology for that, but we are in an age where we can simulate it, so that's what I'm doing. And yes, both offices will have computer terminals, and you will be able to use them for things like bringing up crew rosters, changing crew profiles, writing log entries, that sort of thing, or just browsing YouTube. Now, the planetary orbits will definitely be spline based. And all the orbits in the game will be on rails. And the system as I've designed it is that it'll take the altitude of the object above the parent body and then draw a rail, or a spline, which is a perfectly circular orbit. So as a test then, why don't we just drag in actor? So what are we doing exactly? You are definitely visible, aren't you? Yes. Yeah, I'll be working on the ship itself alongside systems and galaxy updates and things. So it'll be a gradual process over the course of the year. Essentially, as new gameplay elements are added, then internal environments are going to be needed for them. So, they'll be built out as they're needed. Although the basic empty interior hopefully will be fleshed out quite quickly, just with empty rooms. So all the rooms will be there, they just won't be furnished yet until they need to be to support whatever gameplay we're doing. Oh, actually, I think I'm inside the star. Faster, yeah, I am. So, right, so that's fine. That is literally just the fact that it hasn't calculated where it is. So that will solve that little problem. Yeah, that's that sorted. Right, this must be how it's generating then, without any material. So that wise star was 437 Kelvin, so it should be this dark in the game world. However, I am going to... What am I going to do? Yeah. I'm going to set the default for the temperature. Where is it? There it is. I'm going to set that at the maximum, so that's 2189. So the default for this star is that, which is its maximum value. Yeah, highly unlikely. Yeah, me too, for sure. I mean, once we actually get a shuttle down to a surface and start walking around, I'm going to be losing myself in that, so I need to make sure we've got more team members on board so that I can just throw myself at it. Okay, so that's the basics done there. Right, so that being the case, the question is... Oh. Just realised there's going to be a star wrapped around the ship. Hang on. Abort, abort. Yeah, I think overlays are definitely something that's needed, and we would have had it already were it not for the fact that in order to render an overlay, it needs to be restricted to the windows. So you need to have something that is visible through the window glass, but not visible from elsewhere, so that it's only something you can see from the bridge. Because we don't want the overlay being visible out of any window. Now the way to do that would be to use a custom rendering layer, but I'm using that for the stars to stop the stars drawing in front of planets. So every single star you see here is on a custom render layer, and if you set the glass for that, then the glass then renders the stars in front of the planet. It's kind of a peculiarity of how Unreal does its rendering passes. If I can solve that problem, then I can add wireframe overlays to every kind of object, which is definitely going to be needed when you're out and looking at things like rogue planets that don't emit any light. They're just going to be completely black without some way of seeing them in data. The short answer is that you point the weapons at something and press fire, and then the thing you're pointing them at blows up. The long answer is that they're going to be a dual turret, which is a railgun and a beam laser with a shared power supply, and then you switch between which mode you want to use when you're firing the weapon. And generally speaking, you'll be using the beam weapons to take down shields and the railguns for puncturing hulls. Yeah, no plans for anything like torpedoes. In the age of laser point defense, it doesn't matter how fast your torpedo is, it's not going to outrun a laser. Boarding of alien vessels is, yes, it's something I want to do, but it's going to have to be procedural interiors, because obviously if we've got procedural vessels, we can't manually create an interior for all of them. So it's going to have to be part of the procedural system, but that's like way down the line. What'll be coming before that will be things like procedural derelicts. So they won't be active ships that are flying around that you can board. They'll be stationary derelict objects that you can board and explore. That's kind of like step one in the process. Yeah, the Admiral's yacht will probably have limited weaponry, a bit like the Magellan, really. Mostly it's designed to be a diplomatic vessel. Okay, so I think once again we're seeing the placeholder object for the planet and not the planet. Well, star, technically. Right, so why is the question. So if you just spawn it, this takes care of everything it needs to be taken care of. So that must mean that it's getting some bad data from somewhere. The easiest way to work out what that is probably is just to print out of all this gubbins. Yeah, we definitely do plan on having some form of academy, and it won't be part of the sandbox game in terms of career progression, but at some point, once we've got the campaigns and things sort of under our belts, it would be nice to have a full career thing. So you start off as an ensign and you work your way up through the academy, then you get posted on a ship, and then you work your way up through the ship until you're eventually in command. It would be nice to have like a full career on a ship. I imagine we'd probably limit that to solo, single player, because there's a lot of complexities making that work in multiplayer. But yeah, it's definitely something that would be good to do. Yeah, certainly as part of your tutorial experience, then yes, definitely. And when starting a brand new game, I definitely want the player to start off of the ship, you know, in a station, or at least on a shuttle, so that you arrive at the ship rather than just starting off on it already. I think it's definitely something to be said for actually boarding the vessel. Now, to begin with, if you want to swap ships, you'll have to start a new game on that ship. In the long term, certainly when it comes to our third expansion, where we're planning essentially trading and piracy, the idea is that you'll run your own shipping company. So, as the owner of your shipping company, you'll start off with a really basic non-FTL cargo ship, and then you'll work your way up to an FTL cargo ship and beyond. That's something we've got planned for the third expansion. Yeah, exactly that. So you'd be a Sol system space trucker, and then you'd work up a few different vessels there, and eventually maybe getting a really slow FTL vessel where you can do trading runs to like Alpha Centauri, and then get an even faster FTL vessel where you can start trading beyond there to maybe an alien world. Yeah, exactly. You start off with like a yellow Robin Reliant and work your way up from there. Exactly. So the Kelvin value is correct, and the luminosity is blank, so let's work out what that is. And the radius is actually correct, so... Okay. What are we using luminosity for? Because that's irrelevant. That's weird. Weird that it's giving us any light at all if it's coming up as 0. Fascinating. Just the imposter, I think. In this instance, we'll make that darker because it's a dim star. Leave that for a minute. Well, this is very odd. It's definitely spawning this actor because we're getting our debug from this actor. So that's definitely happening. It's already large. So we're already applying our material, which is already using a Kelvin value, which we know to be true. as it should. We're not using that as part of the normal generation anyway, so it's irrelevant. So unless something weird's happening with the optimization, maybe. Seems normal. You know, I am actually wondering whether we're inside the star, and that's why we can't see it. I shall have a gander. But before I do that, there is one thing we needed to fix on here, and that was just making sure we were identifying the correct location of Sol. Didn't have those ticked. It's definitely got the right value there. Interesting. It's definitely the right data, but why is it not generating the right planets? Where even is that? That is true. I will literally stay on stream until I fix the problem. It has happened before. Okay, so the Sol data is not generating there, but it is generating there, so it's probably something silly. However, the more pressing issue is why is this not generating? Jitter. I'm suspicious that it's coming up with the debug text twice. That seems odd. Ooh, hang on, what's that? Aha! So I think the issue we were having is what I suspected, in that those planets were inside the star. So we are 7,000 kilometers away. Actually, it's... how far are we to the actual star itself? Kilometers. We don't go that fast, do we? Do I have any UE5 tutorials I could recommend? Too fast. Crashing. To be honest, I think the UE5 example projects that Epic put out are great learning material. They do tend to be quite C++ heavy, which isn't always ideal if you're trying to learn blueprints. There is a YouTube channel that does some really good overviews of all the different blueprint nodes. Here we are. Yeah, Matthew Wadstein. He does loads of really good tutorials. Let me just link that to you. Yeah, check that channel out. If you ever need a resource on what something does, generally he'll have it. So I think one of the things I need to do with this star is remove the light source, because you've got that red glow coming from a single point, which makes no sense. When you look at the ship against that, it shouldn't really be casting any light at all. So stop that. Okay. What we've got here is this is essentially what it's going to be like for a lot of stuff in the galaxy, especially rogue planets. You're going to essentially find a whole lot of black because it's lacking any kind of light source. Just going to fly into it and see whether or not those planets are there. here somewhere. Oh, there they are. There they go as I get closer. That's properly creepy, that is. Okay, well at least we've solved the mystery. Anyway. It's just made me potentially spot another issue, actually. Right. Okay, so this probably explains why the Sol planets are not receiving labels in space, because those labels for the planets inside that star are absolutely in the wrong place. I'll add that to my list. Okay, well anyway, there is very much a Y-class star. If you can call it a star. I wonder if we have anything slightly brighter than that. I have add them to here. Oh, I did, look at that. Okay, we do have a T-class. Let's go and have a look at that one. Wondering whether we'll have the same issue with that, in that it will be not where we expect it to be. This time we have a Kelvin temperature of 800, so it's going to be a bit brighter and a bit bigger. Oh yeah, there it is. There we go. A T-class star. Then it's only at 800 Kelvin. I mean, that's a very, very cold star. Just need to sort out the lights. The specular highlight from that is very, very harsh. Just wondering whether or not I need to remove the specular entirely. Such a solid black body radiation rather than the point of light. It probably could do without any specular at all. Just have a bit of a glow. So I have just spent half an hour chasing a bug that's not a bug. But still. It was good to sanity check it. Which means we can get rid of that spam. That's no longer needed. Okay, so any LT or Y class star which is in the Gaia dataset, so there's going to be a whole bunch of them within 2,000 light years of Sol. All of those should now be rendering correctly, apart from the fact that planets won't be working quite right with those, again because we don't have Roche limits set up properly. I say that, but they should be. Let's get rid of some of these tabbage. Oh yeah, I was adding the Roche limits. So yeah, I need to go through and make sure that this is calculating correctly, because essentially stars and indeed planets should not be generating anywhere within the Roche limit of that object, because it would be ripped apart by gravitational shearing. So I will I will go back and sanity check that. But yeah, I would say that mission accomplished for the most part. The only thing I didn't get to do tonight was actually add these star classes to the main generation for procedurally generating them. That's the wrong one, that's the one I wanted. So we need to add LT and Y on here next. Which means for that, do we have the random streams for them? We certainly should do. Yeah, we got LT and Y, so we got the streams set up already. So that's the first part. Then we need essentially those. So if I duplicate that. Yeah, I waved at Claire just now and said 5 minutes. I'm sure that wasn't 5 minutes ago, was it? Was that 5 minutes ago? Nearly done, nearly done. This is me rapidly trying to get all this done. Okay, that should be LT and Y now generating procedurally. I just need to make sure that we're not generating like a zillion of them. For now, I'm going to skip that and just give it a set amount. So let's go 10 L class. And 7 T class. 5 Y class. So we're not generating like bazillions of them, and I'll work out the actual proper percentages after. It's true, I am very boring. So, if nothing's generating, then I shall leave it there. If anything is generating, I shall say yay and also leave it there. It might very well be the case that they're generating too far away. I had it set to 25 light years. It literally rips them out of the data further away. Let's just have a quick look. So we'll set that to L class. Oh, yeah, there we go. Hoorah! T class. Many. And Y class. Many. None of these should really have star systems around, realistically. But, we can refine that over time. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Wow. Oh, hang on, how's the planet? It's our diddy little L class. Oh yeah, I need to speed up the thing, don't I? Yeah, generation speeds are hugely improved over what they were. It's now taking about 50 milliseconds to generate what is several thousand stars, which is pretty rapid. Just need to do the same fix on the light repositioning. There you go. That is an L class star. all of its glory. The atmosphere is not working properly on it, but I will fix that. And of course that is a procedurally generated one as well, so it means they will be all over the galaxy now. And that's the beauty of building the galaxy the way we're doing it. Is, obviously it's taken me 3 hours to sort out a bunch of issues that just needed fixing. But now that I've done that, it took me all of about 10 minutes to add 3 whole new star classes to the galaxy, and now they're generating across the entire galaxy, which means there are now billions of them across the galactic space, which is really cool. Right, that will fix the jittery sunlight. Right, okay, there we go. So I will... Oh, camera is all rapid again. Let's zoom in on that. So I will go and do a dev build. Yep, right now. So now that I've got those working, I'll go ahead and just build that immediately. So you can go and check out all of the LT and Y class star systems. Again, ignore the planets that are generating around them because they're completely wrong. In most cases shouldn't be there at all. But yeah, I will refine that over time and make sure that they are generating properly. And I'll have a look at the Roche limit code as well, make sure that's working properly. Okay, and that brings us to the end of another almost 4-hour stream. Normally I'd be tempted to stay on the extra 9 minutes and make it 4 hours, but Claire will probably have my head if I do that, so I won't. Yes, BC5, the home button is fixed. I did that earlier. Right, okay, so before Claire physically pulls me out of my chair, I'm going to call it there, and I shall see you all on the next stream, which will be Wednesday at the usual time of 8 PM BST. See you there, and bye for now.